Okay, this is the first place we stayed, October 31 at the Road Inn in Lake Havasu. You can see the lake behind me. This is the first place we stayed. This is the beginning of our Lake Havasu trip. We're coming down to the lake now, or the river, whatever you want to call it. It's a fountain they have just before you go to the river. See that? It's recording now. See, we're at the river now, and you can see the beautiful fountain behind us, and the beautiful people in front of you. This is Connie's birthday.
I got it before you cut your head off.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we are sitting on a bench now underneath the London Bridge, and you can see the lake behind us, or the river, or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, this is our birthday shot. Then I can show it to you. Okay, we're underneath the London Bridge, and we're at Lake Havasu, October 31. And you can see the river behind us, and there's pigeons and different animals like that around us right now. We're just testing to see how this film comes out. October 31. Okay, these are the decks underneath the London Bridge, and you can see the London Bridge here. Kind of dark, but you can see it. It goes up over like that, and then you go over that way. This is underneath the London Bridge. See all the ducks down there? There's the boats.
You're gonna have to do some editing on that. As much
Oh,
as
it's good. I'm not worried about it. Everything's good. Okay, if you listen real carefully, you can hear the birds, and you can see the London Bridge and the river. Can you hear the birds?
Let's just take a picture of the scenery.
That's the scenery. That's the London Bridge there. And of course you can see down.
Slow down moving it. Hold it still for a while.
London Bridge. Okay.
Still.
That's good.
Not as fast movement as our boat.
Let's see if I get this. This is just a different shot of the river and the London Bridges. You can see in the background.
You're doing pretty good.
The London Bridges.
Uh-huh.
And the boats and the river. Looks pretty good.
You're getting it all right.
I just have to...
You see him over here.
I'm not sure if you can see this fish down there or not, but there is a fish in the water down there. Do you see him? A huge thing. This is part of the river here.
Whoops, he's in the shade now.
He went in the shade.
Guaranteed you won't see him now.
And this, of course, is the London Bridges. You can see at a distance now. And we're heading this way.
Feeder.
Okay, if you can see the fish down there, it's a bottom feeder. You can see him in there. There's the ducks over there. And we're still heading this way.
There's a whole bunch of those fish.
And then back over to the London Bridges, you can see behind us.
Got its name. The river does get its beginning in the state of Colorado. If you folks have ever been anywhere close to Denver, Colorado, I know these two folks have, but about 70 miles west-northwest of Denver, Colorado, there's a little community there in the Rocky Mountains known as Grand Lake, Colorado. And if you were to head east out of Grand Lake, Colorado, very shortly you'd enter into the Rocky Mountain National Park. You'd continue on a 2-lane highway. You'd climb up and over, eventually up and over a 13,000 plus foot pass, and then down we're all used to seeing like this. Then the volcano becomes inactive and temper, and it becomes much harder than the outer, softer, more shaly portion of the volcano. And then you add a few million years of erosion to that equation, and that outer portion slowly wears away over millions of years. A lot of ancient volcanic mountain ranges here in the Mojave Desert. You know, the mid-1880s, along about the time that Lieutenant Whipple was out here, gold was being discovered in California, gold and silver. Same thing happening in Nevada and other parts of the Southwest. Same thing was happening up and down the Colorado River. Gold, silver, copper, other ores were being discovered, and small communities would spring up along the Colorado River, and mining and prospecting was going on. And of course, cavalry outposts up and down the river. And of course, they needed transportation and supplies. And back then, the old steamboat captains, they would navigate the Colorado River and moor up and down the river like we have on our highways today. And so in lieu of mile markers, what they did, they always identified different rock formations and landmarks all up and down the river. Take a look at this one up here on this ridge line. They called that Window Rock. And a lot of window rocks here in the state of Arizona simply because of the nature of the landscape. But they called that Window Rock, and if they passed Window Rock at 1200 hours and 3 minutes, they would mark that down in their log. And they had literally hundreds of rock formations up and down the Colorado. Pilot Rock and the Sleeping Indian and Window Rock and Pittsburgh Point and the Needles Peaks and Mojave Rock and Cathedral Rock and the Stargazer and many, many others. And every time they would write that down in their log. And, you know, that way if they had to go back at a later time and date, they could look at that log and determine approximately where they were located on the Colorado River. This buoy line here represents the entrance to Copper Canyon. And Copper Canyon is a box canyon, one way in, one way out. And the canyon got its name because there used to be a copper mine here in the center portion of the canyon. Take a look, we're on a safari tour here. You guys didn't know it, we're on a Disneyland safari tour, girls. Careful of that gate. It has a way of opening sometimes. Be careful of the gate. At any rate, take a look at this island right here in front of us. Looks kind of like a dog, maybe like a poodle, doesn't it? You can see kind of the snout and the ears kind of hanging down, you know, and look in between that island and the shoreline, and you can see how differently that shoreline looks in comparison to the rest of the shoreline here in Copper Canyon. That's the tailing, that's the leftover from the mining operation. And you know, it's been trampled down over the years, but you can see how differently that portion of the canyon wall looks compared to the rest of it. This is the canyon by the holiday weekend, such as Memorial Day, from in this canyon that you can walk from side to side, getting your feet wet. Literally hundreds upon hundreds of in this area on one of those holiday weekends. You might not get out for 12 or 15 or 20 hours.
What kind of fish?
Fish, striped bass, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, bluegill, channel catfish, flathead catfish, some trout up in the river system. Good fishing lake.
No crappie?
Crappie as well. Take a look at this rock here. We'll climb to the top. About 35 feet below it in depth. It's kind of safe.
Kind of safe.
Yeah, not very. Hey, Julie and Sophia, look straight ahead of us right here. You didn't know we were on a safari tour. Look straight ahead of us right here, right in front of me, up on this canyon wall here. There's a tree that you can see the sun shining on. Look to the left and to the right of that tree. You see two beady little eyes. Can you see them? And then that tree sitting on the nose, and then down below it, the mouth is kind of scrunched over to the right or to our left. Kind of looks like a gorilla, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of looks like a gorilla. Yeah. And then take a look. You know, at one point in time, Mother Nature must have created a huge eruption or an explosion or an earthquake or something right in this area, because it just took the surface of this earth and just pushed it up like this. But beautiful back in here. The coloring and the rock and everything is just gorgeous. This point over here on the left-hand side of the canyon wall, if you look straight back beyond that, about 150 yards, that's where the canyon actually ends back in there. That's where the canyon ends, and then as we get a little bit further along, take a look at this second ridge line coming in this way. Look at this second ridge line coming in this way, and right in the middle of that you'll see a big old nest and a big old hole in there. See that nest? And visualize that nest. Julie and Sophia, visualize that nest as the eye of an elephant. Visualize that nest as an eye of an elephant. Can you see the forehead and the trunk hanging kind of down? And looks kind of like an elephant, yeah? Beautiful back in here, isn't it?
Come here. Come here. Okay. I'll take pictures of myself.
Take a look at the water. Take a look at the color of the water. Knowledge as to why it's so green back in here. Copper. Yeah, copper is the right answer. You know how copper oxidizes and it turns green, then leaches out into the water, and that's exactly what it is copper. And because of these coves, they're kind of protected back in here. The current from the Colorado River kind of travels back into this area, and so this green color kind of stays back in here. Pretty back in here, huh? You know, I mentioned to you guys that Lake Havasu is a very highly controlled body of water. I know you folks were up to the dam, the Hoover Dam, so you were able to visualize Lake Mead. And Lake Mead, you know, is down, I don't know how many feet now, but at one time 75, 80 feet. Yeah, it's down a long ways. And Lake Powell is a similar situation with Lake Powell. And similar situation with Lake Powell, but that's not the case here at Lake Havasu. Lake Havasu, a very, very highly controlled body of water, if not in the United States, but possibly even in the world. The highest, the most controlled body of water in the world, possibly. Not sure about that, but certainly here in the United States. And the way that happened was this. Back in 1929, the Southern California, that they were having a huge, at the same time, to sustain that population explosion, they needed huge amounts of additional water to sustain that. And so the Southern California Metropolitan Water District, they're the ones that funded the construction of the Parker Dam, that deepest dam in the world to the south of us right here. They're the one that funded the construction of that dam, and by contract, this water will never fluctuate more than 10 feet. High water's 457 to 449, somewhere right around in where we're at right now. And I've never, in the years I've been driving boats, I've never seen it, although I'm not out here every day, but I've never...
All along the river, there's places for the boats to stop. There's picnic tables and outhouses and camping.